Do you ever avoid the hard reality? In the Matrix, Neo has a choice between the red pill, where he'll experience the cold, hard reality, and the blue pill, which is blissful ignorance for the rest of his days. See, here's the thing for entrepreneurs. To cope with your reality, you've got to know your reality. We can't live a life of delusion. And it's truer for us as entrepreneurs than perhaps any other person on the planet. Years ago, I had a chance to meet John Allison. John's the CEO of BB&T, one of the biggest 10 banks in America. And he said, we've got a manifesto. And in this manifesto at BB&T, it says, we're deeply and profoundly interested in truth and reason. And they invite the leaders that come on board at BB&T to read a book, Atlas Shrugged, which is really about a philosophy where all the BS untruths are thrown out the window. However ugly, however unattractive or hard the cold reality seems, it's all about pursuing truth and reason and reality. And actually, it's about an entrepreneur doing that. Well, John, in the early 2000s, saw a lot of untruth. He said, you'd look at the TVs and basically you'd be drawn in to this beautiful American dream we were being fed in the media, where like someone will get a phone call and break down in tears because they just received that phone call where they were approved for their home loan. And this was like the new American dream, right? Everybody should have their own home. It's like there was just one problem. People couldn't afford their own home. And so he basically saw the beginnings of this subprime mess, all those subprime mortgages that led to the meltdown in 2008 at its beginnings. But what happened, right? His competitors, other banks, were selling these mortgages off to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, what we call government-sponsored entities, right? Effectively like an extension of the government. And it was hard for John not to generate these mortgages and loans because his competitors were profiting by selling these loans. They stuck to their guns. They said, you know what? These mortgages are not healthy. We're not going to do it. Sure enough, in 2008, when this whole scheme, this whole fiasco erupted in the subprime meltdown, a lot, if not all, of the largest 10 banks would have gotten flushed under if it weren't for government bailouts, except for one bank, BB&T. Didn't put a buck, not a single dollar, into these subprime mortgages. See, here's the thing. As a leader, you've got to figure out if you're going to stand for principle or just do what's popular and easy. I learned that when I was a freshman in college. So we had student government. I was president of my class. All the presidents, all the student leaders were convened at Sugarloaf. Fancy resort, luxurious getaway. They had a high-priced facilitator. And the facilitator starts the whole weekend by saying, if someone says something at any point during this weekend that offends your senses, that makes you in any way uneasy, I want you to say, ouch. And so I'm sitting there saying, really? Like, we're a bunch of adults discussing the hottest of political hot potatoes around, like at the University of Pennsylvania, the speech code and amending our school constitution. We were the first university to explore this incredibly controversial topic, and we're supposed to have a real meaningful, constructive conversation without offending someone's feelings? Like, really? So I'm like, ouch. And she's looking at me and saying like, very good. She's like, and what's your name? Josh. Yeah, exactly. Ouch. And I'm like, no, really, like, ouch. And the next thing I know, someone hears me and they're like, ouch. They're like, I think, we should be sensitive and not say anything. And then, it's like, ouch, ouch, ouch. Everybody's saying ouch. The whole weekend's a big boondoggle, like one big waste. And I'm sitting there thinking, of course it was going to be a waste, right? At the end of the day, though, as a leader, every one of us has that decision, right? Are we going to stand for some principle, or are we just going to do what's easy? Well, at the end of the day, you've got to decide what you're going to stand for. There's a saying, fish stinks from the head down. You're the head of your organization, right? As leader, you've got to decide if you're going to make tough decisions. if you're going to stand for some principle. If you're just going to go the popular way, at some point, probably you're going to get discovered for just faking the principles that make you popular. If not, you're just going to be a phony each day. Either way, kind of sucks. It's a lose-lose. So, I'm going to invite you, if you're an entrepreneur, to figure out some hard reality, some tough decision, some tough conversation that you've been avoiding. Think of that right now, and I want you to come up with a date that you're going to confront that by. That's my mini assignment to you right here. And if you're interested in some very concrete steps you can take beyond that to strengthen your organization and do what every single entrepreneur ultimately needs to do, which is to break through the series of ceilings we all face as heads of our business, I invite you to learn more about us by clicking on the link you might see or come to our website at helm.ceo.